The sound of a phone ringing. Not a normal call. The kind that makes your stomach drop. On the other end, a woman hears her boyfriend screaming. Not just screaming, begging. And then she hears it. The wet, horrible sound of metal puncturing flesh. Not just once, or twice. 3 times. She's listening to him being murdered. And the voice on the phone says, £5,000. You have 20 minutes. What would you do? Most people freeze. Most people call the police and pray they arrive in time. But this woman doesn't have time for prayers. So she does something that will shock investigators, prosecutors, and you. She rolls up a jacket, pretends it's cash, and calls her boyfriend's father. And the father? He doesn't call 999. He grabs 3 friends, gets in his car, and decides that if the police won't save his son in the next 20 minutes, he will. With his bare hands. And his vehicle. Used as a battering ram. This is February 10, 2025. Merthyr Tydfil, Wales. A retail park. A kidnapping. 9 stab wounds. And a father's choice that will define the rest of his life. Speed camera footage captures him doing 70 through residential streets. Witnesses will later testify they saw 2 cars racing through red lights. And then comes the impact. Metal on metal. The father rams the kidnapper's vehicle once. The car swerves but keeps going. His son is still inside. Blindfolded. Bleeding out. Dying. So he does it again. The window explodes. And through the shattered glass, a bloodied figure, 28 years old, stabbed 9 times, with internal bleeding, crawls out onto the Welsh pavement. He collapses. His father drags him into the car. Races to hospital. Bursts through emergency doors at 10:05 p.m. And only then do the police get called. The kidnappers? They're already gone. Vanished into the night with a disposal plan that spans 3 counties. But they made one mistake. One small, stupid mistake that will bring them down and put them away for 75 years combined. I'm about to show you the hidden forensics. The betrayal that started it all. And the psychological warfare that nearly killed a man in front of his girlfriend while she listened helplessly on the phone. This is Scene Chronicles. And this is the Merthyr Tydfil Nightmare. If you're new here, hit subscribe right now. Because what comes next, the fake gun, the evidence disposal route, and the courtroom twist, you won't find anywhere else. Notifications on. Let's begin. February 10, 2025. Connor Price is 28 years old. Lives in Merthyr Tydfil. Normal guy. Normal life. And then his phone rings. It's Luke Williams. 19 years old. Someone Connor knows. Maybe trusts. Williams says let's meet. Cyfarthfa Retail Park. Just a chat. Connor says fine. Brings his girlfriend for safety. Public place. Cameras everywhere. Nothing to worry about. Except Luke Williams isn't calling as a friend. His calling is bait. And waiting in that retail park are 2 men who drove 80 miles specifically to hurt Connor Price. Tyshane Brown, 30, from Weymouth. George Miles Williams, 23, from Hereford. They didn't stumble into this. They planned it. Mapped it. And Connor is walking straight into the trap. 9 p.m. Connor and his girlfriend pull into Cyfarthfa Retail Park. It's well lit. Greg's. Subway. People around. Safe. Luke Williams appears. But not alone. From the shadows, Tyshane Brown. George Miles Williams. 3 against 1. The girlfriend watches her boyfriend get dragged from their car. Screaming. Fighting. Doesn't matter. They force him into a stolen Hyundai. Grey. Common. Untraceable. Door slams. Engine roars. Gone. She's standing alone in a retail park, watching her boyfriend vanish. And her phone rings. Inside the Hyundai, Connor is blindfolded. Can't see. Can't escape. The car is moving fast through Merthyr. And Tydfil Brown speaks. We have a knife. And we have a gun. Connor now believes he's facing armed men. Any wrong move means death. But what he doesn't know, what won't be revealed until the trial, the gun is fake. An imitation. Psychological warfare. But the knife? That's real. As the car speeds through dark streets, the demand comes. £5,000. Connor says he doesn't have it. That's when the first stab hits his back. Then his stomach. Then his hand as he tries to block the blade. This isn't one injury. This is 9 stab wounds over the next hour. Face. Abdomen. Back. Groin. Thigh. Hand. Each one calculated to cause maximum pain while keeping him alive. They need him conscious. They need him screaming. Because the next part requires an audience. Tydfil Brown calls Connor's girlfriend. Makes her listen. She can hear her boyfriend being stabbed. The grunts. The pleading. The wet sound of the blade going in. Brown makes multiple calls. Each time, she hears more. This is audio torture. She's not just negotiating. She's being forced to witness her boyfriend's murder in real time through a phone speaker. The ordeal lasts 1 hour. 60 minutes of sustained terror. Every stab, every scream is designed to break her. To make her pay anything. Do anything. But Brown miscalculates. Because this woman isn't breaking. She's planning. And what she's about to do will turn this kidnapping into a battlefield. While Connor is being stabbed repeatedly in a moving car, his girlfriend makes a decision that will save his life. She agrees to the ransom. Tells Brown she'll get the money. But she doesn't go to an ATM. She goes to the backseat. Grabs a jacket. Rolls it tight. In the dark, in the chaos, it looks like £5,000 in cash. It's not about fooling them forever. It's about buying time. Because she's not calling the police. She's calling Connor's father. The father picks up. Hears his son is being tortured. Stabbed. Held for ransom by armed men. And he makes a choice that will define everything. He doesn't call 999. He grabs his keys. Calls 3 friends. Within minutes, they're in a car racing towards RAMMED retail park. This is a father consciously choosing vigilante action. He's about to confront 3 armed men who've proven they'll stab someone 9 times. The legal risk is severe. The physical danger is extreme. But his son has minutes. The police have procedures. He has a car. And he's willing to use it as a weapon. Think about this calculation. Speed versus safety. Family versus system. Your son bleeding to death versus trusting bureaucracy. What would you do? While the father races through Merthyr, Connor is enduring systematic brutality. By the end, 9 stab wounds. Face, maximum psychological trauma. Abdomen, internal bleeding, life-threatening. Back, immobilization. Groin, pure sadism. Hand, defensive wounds trying to block the blade. None of these immediately sever an artery. This is controlled violence. They are stabbing to wound, not kill quickly. Maximum pain. Minimum death. Because they need him alive for the ransom. But the internal bleeding is worsening. Connor is going into shock. His body is shutting down. And the kidnappers make their fatal mistake. They return to RAMMED retail park. They believe the girlfriend has the cash. They believe this is over. What they don't know is that waiting in that park isn't a terrified woman with money. It's a father with a car. And zero hesitation. 10:45 p.m. The stolen Hyundai returns to RAMMED retail park. Connor is barely conscious inside. Blood-soaked. Blindfolded. The kidnappers think they're collecting £5,000 and disappearing. But the father is already there. Engine running. Watching. The fake ransom, the rolled jacket, is visible. Bait. The Hyundai pulls in. and the father moves. He and his friends rush the car on foot. A window shatters. Someone tries to pull Connor out. But the kidnappers aren't letting go. They still have knives. They panic. The Hyundai's engine roars. They flee. With Connor still inside. The father's first rescue attempt fails. But he didn't come here just to try. He came to finish this. He gets back in his car. And chases them through Merthyr Tydfil. 2 cars racing through dark streets. The father right behind. And in his mind, a terrible calculation forms. He can follow all night and never catch them. He can call police and wait. But every second Connor bleeds. Dies. The internal bleeding is critical. Shock is setting in. If Connor doesn't reach hospital soon, this ends with a body. So the father decides. He's going to ram them. He's going to use his car as a weapon against 3 desperate men with knives and possibly a gun. He might kill them. He might kill his own son in the impact. He might go to prison for manslaughter. But doing nothing guarantees Connor dies. He accelerates. Impact. The father rams the Hyundai. Hard. Metal crunches. The kidnapper's car swerves but doesn't stop. So he does it again. Impact. The second collision is violent. The already broken window explodes outward completely. And Connor Price, blindfolded, 9 stab wounds, internal bleeding, makes his move. He dives through the shattered window. Hits pavement. Can't see. Can barely move. But he's out. Free. The kidnappers realize their hostage is gone. They are surrounded. They flee into the night. The father and friends get Connor into their car. Race to hospital. Connor arrives at emergency with multiple stab wounds, internal bleeding, going into shock. But alive. The father's gamble paid off. Time, 10:05 p.m. Connor Price has been free for minutes. Police are finally called. But the kidnappers have a head start. And they have a plan. A disposal route across multiple Welsh counties. Evidence destruction that shows this wasn't chaos. This was calculated. And that disposal route is about to reveal just how organized this nightmare really was. Most criminals panic after a crime. Make mistakes. Leave trails. But Brown, Williams, and Miles Williams don't run randomly. They follow a route. A predetermined path designed to dispose of evidence. First stop, Talgarth, Powys. 30 miles from Merthyr. This is where they regroup. Assess what they are carrying. Plan the next move. Second stop, Fellinder, Swansea. 40 miles in the opposite direction. And this is where they dispose of everything. The fake gun. Multiple knives, not just one blade. The clothing they wore during the attack. All gone. Think about what this reveals. They had a disposal plan before the kidnapping even happened. They'd mapped specific locations. This wasn't opportunistic. This was premeditated with a sophisticated escape route. But they made one critical error. The abandoned Hyundai. The stolen car becomes a forensic goldmine. Connor's blood saturated into the seats. But more importantly, the kidnapper's DNA everywhere. Fingerprints on the steering wheel. Door handles. All 3 men definitively linked to the vehicle. Then CCTV tracks their route through Merthyr. Catches the Hyundai entering the retail park. Fleeing. And crucially, catches something else. 48 hours after the kidnapping, Luke Williams and Tyshane Brown appear on CCTV at a BP petrol station in Herefordshire. Together. Calm. And Williams is wearing specific clothing that becomes crucial later. The trail leads to a caravan park in Kidderminster. This is where they believe they're safe. Where they've gone to ground waiting for the heat to die. February 27, 2025. 17 days after the kidnapping. Police raid the caravan simultaneously. All 3 arrested. The evidence found inside, a balaclava, a large knife, and blood-stained clothing, the exact clothes Williams wore in the BP station footage. DNA, fingerprints, CCTV, physical evidence. The case is airtight. Brown, Williams, Miles Williams, all in custody, all facing attempted murder. Before we get to the trial, if you're this deep and haven't subscribed, do it now. Hit that button. Notifications on. Because the courtroom reveals something unexpected. A twist about who really controlled this nightmare. Let's go to trial. August 2025. 6 months after the kidnapping. Merthyr Tydfil Crown Court. 3 men in the dock. The charges: attempted murder, causing grievous bodily harm with intent, kidnap, blackmail, possession of an imitation firearm, possession of a bladed article. 6 charges, each carrying serious prison time. The prosecution's case is overwhelming. Connor testifies. His girlfriend testifies. The father describes the chase and ramming. Forensic experts present DNA evidence. CCTV shows the entire timeline. Blood-stained clothing matches petrol station footage. The defense has nothing. All 3 found guilty on all charges. But sentencing at Newport Crown Court in October reveals a hierarchy. And it changes everything about who really orchestrated this. Tyshane Brown, 30 years old, from Weymouth, gets 30 years in prison. The longest sentence. Why? Because Brown was the orchestrator. He made the ransom calls, directed the violence, primary aggressor. But here's what's chilling. Brown also gets a 3-year extended license after prison. This is reserved for offenders deemed high risk for reoffending. Judge Clark specifically states Brown poses significant ongoing danger. This wasn't his first violent thought. Won't be his last. Luke Williams, 19 years old, from Hereford, gets 25 years in Young Offenders Institution. Despite being youngest, his sentence is only 5 years less than Brown's. Why? Because Williams was the law. He made the call that brought Connor to the park. Betrayed someone who trusted him. And during the kidnapping, Williams was active. Held the knife. Made threats. Not just a pawn. A willing predator. Williams also gets extended license. 2 years. At 19, already considered a major threat. The betrayal factor, using friendship as a weapon, made his crime particularly heinous. George Miles Williams, 23, from Hereford, gets 20 years. The shortest sentence. And here's where it gets interesting. Judge Clark specifically describes Miles Williams as having a lesser role. What does that mean? Was he reluctant? Coerced by the older Brown? Did he show remorse the others didn't? Court records don't give complete clarity. But Miles Williams participated. Was in the car. Part of the kidnapping. Yet something about his involvement was different from Brown's orchestration and Williams' betrayal. 20 years is still massive. But the 5 and 10-year gaps tell us the court saw distinction. Notably, Miles Williams doesn't get extended license. Not deemed high-risk reoffender. Suggests the court believed his involvement was circumstantial rather than character-defining. All 3 must serve 2/3 before parole eligibility. Not automatic release. Application. Brown, minimum 20 years. He'll be 50. Then 3 more on license. Williams, minimum 16.6 years. He'll be 35. Then 2 on license. Miles Williams, minimum 13.3 years. He'll be 36. Combined, 75 years imprisonment. 75 years for 1 hour of terror. 75 years for 9 stab wounds. 75 years for turning a retail park into torture chamber. Connor survived. But carries 9 scars. physical and psychological. His girlfriend carries the memory of hearing him stabbed while helpless. The father carries the burden of vigilante action. But there are still questions. Questions the trial couldn't answer. Questions that haunt this case. And we need to finish with those. The father saved his son by ramming a vehicle with potentially deadly force. He pursued kidnappers at high speed through residential streets. Used his car as a weapon. And here's what's remarkable, no charges were ever filed against him. Why? Because British law recognizes defense of another. The father had reasonable belief his son was in immediate danger of death or serious harm. His response was proportionate to that threat. The CPS reviewed it and declined prosecution. But think about the precedent. A civilian pursued armed criminals, rammed their vehicle twice, and walked away legally justified. The question isn't whether he was right. The question is, would you have done the same? Next question, the true motive. Why did these three men travel 80 miles to kidnap Connor Price? The trial confirmed it was debt-related. £5,000. But here's what doesn't add up. If it's really about £5,000, why the elaborate disposal route? Why the systematic violence? Why risk attempted murder for that amount? Tyshawn Brown had no prior relationship with Connor. Luke Williams was just the connection. Something deeper was at play. Maybe the debt was symbolic. Maybe this was about reputation. Making an example. Showing what happens when you cross certain people. The 5,000 wasn't the point. The violence was the message. We'll never know for certain because none of the three have spoken publicly about motive. The psychological aftermath. Connor Price survived 9 stab wounds. Internal bleeding. Hour of torture. But the physical scars are just the beginning. PTSD from that blindfolded hour. Trust destroyed by Luke Williams' betrayal. The knowledge that someone he knew lured him to attempted murder. His girlfriend, forced to listen to her boyfriend being stabbed while helpless. That audio trauma doesn't fade. Every phone call now carries that echo. Every unexpected sound triggers that memory. The father, he saved his son. But he did it by choosing violence. By ramming a car with his son inside. That calculation, risk killing him to save him, stays with you. Even when it works. Especially when it works. And here's the question nobody asks. What if the ramming had killed Connor? What if that second impact had driven a shard of glass into his throat? The father would still be legally justified, defense of another. But he'd live forever with the knowledge that he killed his own son trying to save him. That's the weight of the choice. Let's talk about Luke Williams. 19 years old. 25 years in prison. He'll be 44 when eligible for parole. His entire 20s and 30s spent in young offenders then adult prison. The question that haunts this case, was Williams a predator or a pawn? The prosecution painted him as active participant. Made the luring call. Held the knife. Made threats. But here's what we don't know, was he being pressured by Tyshawn Brown? Brown was 30. Experienced. Violent. Williams was 19. Impressionable. Did Brown manipulate Williams into making that call? Promise him money? Threaten him if he didn't participate? We don't know because Williams never testified about coercion. The sentencing suggests the judge believed Williams was culpable. 25 years. Extended license. High risk of reoffending. That's not a sentence for a coerced teenager. That's a sentence for someone the court believes is genuinely dangerous. But the betrayal factor is what really sealed it. Using friendship as a weapon. Luring someone you know to torture and attempted murder. That's a special kind of evil. And the court punished it accordingly. Now the bigger question. The one that defines this entire case. Your son is being held by armed men. You can hear him screaming on the phone. You have maybe 20 minutes before he bleeds to death. Police will take longer. You have a car. You have friends. You know where they are going. Do you wait for the system? Or do you become the system? The father chose violence. Chose to ram a car with his son inside. Chose to risk killing everyone, kidnappers and victim, on the gamble it would work. And it did work. Connor survived. The kidnappers are in prison for 75 combined years. Justice was served. But what if it hadn't worked? What if Connor died in that ramming? What if the father had crashed and killed innocent bystanders in that high-speed pursuit? This is the impossible moral question. At what point does saving someone justify risking everything? The law says the father was justified. Defense of another. Reasonable force. Proportionate response. Legally, he's clear. But morally? That's for you to decide. Here's what we know for certain. On February 10, 2025, Connor Price was lured to a retail park by someone he knew. Kidnapped by 3 men who traveled 80 miles to hurt him. Stabbed 9 times over 60 minutes while his girlfriend listened helplessly. And saved by his father's willingness to use lethal force when the system was too slow. 3 men got 75 years. 1 man got his life back. And 1 father got to live with the knowledge that when his son needed him most, he didn't hesitate. That's the Merthyr Tydfil Nightmare. Now I want to hear from you. Was the father a hero or a vigilante? Was Luke Williams a predator or a pawn? Would you have waited for police or grabbed your keys? Comment below. I read every single one. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of viewer Crime Scene Chronicles is built for. Deep dive forensics. Hidden details. Moral complexity. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. We've got more cases coming that will challenge everything you think you know about justice. Check the videos on screen for the next investigation. Until then, stay vigilant. And remember, sometimes the law moves too slow. Sometimes justice requires choices no one should have to make. This is Crime Scene Chronicles. Thanks for watching.